That's a bar. Yeah, it's okay. It's a lot. It's in your, 26 hours great.
You know, which side of Texas you're coming from, you know, like. Is there extra agenda?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just one. And then that. So recording, so might as well start. It's after and everybody seems pretty much ready. We'll call the meeting to order at 1:32. Present, we have Mayor Lands, we have Councilmember Bagby, we have City Manager Kelly, and Assistant City Manager Thompson. Sorry.
And we also have Finance Director Susie Holmes on Zoom.
Perfect. Okay. Public comments. Any person wishing to speak to the council subcommittee on any item not listed on the agenda may do so at this time. Members of the public have the right to speak on any item on the agenda at the time the item comes up for consideration. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the committee is not allowed to consider issues or take action on any item not listed on the agenda. 3 minutes are typically allotted to each speaker. Anyone interested? I only see Debbie in the attendees list. So Debbie, if you want to make a comment, now's your time to raise your hand and let us know. Seeing not, we will move on to communications. Is there any communications, David?
Mayor Chair, no communications.
Perfect. Next is the approval of the minutes. February 6th.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right. Anyone against? Perfect. Motion passes. New business is the discussion of the California Business Roundtable Ballot Initiative.
All right, I'll take this item. Quick.
I just closed it time.
So a little bit of background on this item. This is the California Business Roundtable initiative. The title of that initiative is the Taxpayer Protection and Government Accountability Act. Has qualified for the ballot. The initiative number is 21-0042A1.
Very charming.
This will be considered by the city council on the 8th. Included in the packet is an overview of the measure and it addresses some of the impacts that this initiative would have on fees and charges, taxes, as well as fines and penalties. Included in the packet is a resolution opposing the measure and authorizing the mayor to sign a letter on the city's behalf, the council's behalf, in opposition to this. The city has seen a similar bill came forward by the same group that sponsored this bill in the past. I think it qualified in 2018, and at that time the council had taken a position of opposition. The League of California Cities has attempted to work with the proponents to make friendly amendments that would be less impactful to cities, but the proponents were not agreeable to many of the changes. Some of the impacts. One that I want to make note of is this initiative would require voter approval in order to apply any existing tax to an area that is annexed. So any area that would be annexed would require a new vote of those residents to approve any tax measures that were in place. That's critical in our city. We have, historically, we have the ad valorem tax, which was adopted by the voters or approved by the voters back in 1971, thankfully, that helps to offset the costs to the city of pension liability, particularly for police officers. So that would be a very significant one. But in addition to that, would be utility user taxes. So if this measure passed, you know, we think, you know, in this case, we're being forced to annex 6 acres. Or South Cloverdale, we have to put a ballot measure on for those voters for the tax to apply. I feel like that alone is so significant that it would make support for this ballot initiative in the city of Cloverdale pretty challenging, or could put us in a difficult position where you've got, if annexed, two different sets of taxpayers, one that pays the tax and one doesn't, and I think that would really be kind of unfair.
No representation without taxation.
Right. What it also calls into question is, I mean, for the most part, we know that any fees that we set are intended to be cost recovery, and we do that analysis fairly frequently to make sure that our fees align with, you know, exactly how much staff time we are putting into whatever service it is that we're providing. And the read on this initiative is that it views many of those fees as taxes, which may require voter approval, and that would be, you know, anytime we change it, which we may update it because something may take longer, but we also update fees and reduce them because we can do things more efficiently. So that's a big question, is that this would change the methodology by which cities set fees, and that could have an impact on our fee setting process, which we hold as public hearings. So we always notice the community. We listen if folks, we know, for instance, when council set cannabis fees, we listen to the cannabis industry, we listen to the community, and we make changes accordingly based on that feedback. You know, in the way this ballot initiative is written is, you know, it could start to require, it has to be on the ballot, and that would obviously take away a lot of flexibility and decision making that council has. So really, this item is brought forward for discussion in preparation for the council meeting on Wednesday night. Staff believes, as the league does, that we should go on record opposing it, so we can, you know, build our case against it, because it could have detrimental impacts to the city in terms of fee collection, fee revenue, as well as taxes. I'll pause there, Mayor. If there's anything you think that's invaluable, I should touch on either today or at the meeting on Wednesday, council meeting on Wednesday.
I think this is very clear.
Yeah, I think we're very clear. I'll just add a couple of caveats that I don't know may or may not help, and that we actually had this was a closed session item on how to strategize regarding this on the ballot for the lead board. And they're taking it very seriously. So they're really going to come for, you know, city and community support on this. I think it would also be great if they're so inclined that the chamber also get involved, that local chamber get involved and really talk about the effect to city finances, the effect on economic development that this would have, and that it's really not, it's not good for local business at all. It's really aimed at, it's a payday for large corporate taxpayers in California. That's what this is designed to do. And it's at the mercy and on the backs of cities large and small. So I think it would be important for maybe our new council members to understand the history of this, go back to the 2018 resolution, and that it had full council support, was the full support of opposition for it in 2018. We signed on to the league's efforts, and that moving forward, the league is taking this very seriously again, and that our tax revenue streams would be in danger. And staff can analyze this, and maybe Susie can weigh on this, but the number of cities who are envious of our ad valorem tax it's pretty profound. That's one of the main things that I talk about when I'm, you know, working on the policy group, governance, transparency, and labor relations. That is, you know, pension liability is one of the main topics of concern. And the number of cities who are envious of our ad valorem passed before position 13, we make it staff may or may not agree, people may or may not agree. If we didn't have that ad valorem tax, we might not still have our own police department. We might have had a contract with the sheriff. So it's like, I don't want to scare people. I don't want to use scare tactics, but I think we might have to scare people and explain to them why we feel so strongly about this. The other piece is that I'm glad that you talked about, any future annexation would be subject to our existing utility taxes and other, that if we wanted to, that's just, if we wanted to annex an area, which we have prime possibilities coming up, the idea that would be subject to either another vote and having to go to the expense of that, or having to just eat it and say they have a different tax rate. That's unmanageable from a business perspective. So I think that in the staff report to the rest of the council, that's what I kind of like to see is the history of this, and then where it's going to hit us in our ability to either collect on those utility taxes and those other special taxes, to be able to collect on that, and then the ungovernability of what happens after annexation or pre-annexation. I just think you need to spell it out to people in stark terms, and this is exactly what the effect would be for Cloverdale, so that they understand it. It's not just a nebulous, oh, we'll do that, sounds like a good idea thing. It's like, it has to be, the discussion has to be put into context. And I think each city is really going to have to do that for themselves and explain why this is not good governance.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that actually there's a current court case. The case is referred to the Zolli case. It's where a taxpayer, similar, the same group that's sponsoring this, is taking issue with collection of franchise fees for solid waste. Granted, in this case, City of Oakland, they get a fairly significant sum of franchise fees compared to Cloverdale.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe there's valid arguments there, I don't know, but it's also targeting the franchise fees. So we receive a solid waste fee as part of our franchise agreement, and it helps to offset. It goes in our general fund. It helps offset the costs of staff. Most of the time, the cities are large enough, they have dedicated staff, so it helps pay their salaries in my case.
And isn't it even bigger with SB 1338? That burden is even higher.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. We're just learning that. Right. But the compliance requirements and the amount of time, I mean, these fees are critical to being able to deliver the meet state regulations and requirements. And so, they're calling into question that as a tax, which if it goes away, it's going to be a big loss of revenue.
Yeah.
For us.
Yeah, just giving it some context and understanding of, how hard it will hit us. I mean, that's the irony is that this group is actually some of the voices of, oh, we need to return local control. Well, they're targeting the very taxes that the voters actually went to their voting booth and said, we want to tax ourselves. We want a utility tax because we want this. We want Measure M because we want more money for parks. we're going to tax ourselves, not just in the county of Sonoma, which there are plenty of taxes that are probably going to be impacted as well. Right. But the voters of Cloverdale went and ticked the box and said, yeah, I choose to tax myself for this. And now they're saying that that they're gonna call it into question. So,
right.
Yeah.
One of the most interesting things, and the league called this out, is that it prohibits cities and counties from even putting advisory measures.
Yeah.
So you can't even seek, whether the electorate will support a particular tax or a particular measure. So you're taking that away. But
it's like there goes Sonoma, there goes SMART, there goes the parks measure that we use all the time. So our streets are parks, our ad warrant that probably keeps our police department.
Our library.
Our water, like, thank you. I mean, and I think that's what people need to see, and that needs to be part of the discussion. It's like, yeah, Sonoma County voters went to the polls and said, yes, we're gonna fund libraries. And now that's being called into question. So I think, yeah, but let's, and then any of the ones that we might have forgotten here.
It's very clear and I don't see how anyone would be against, opposing this.
I hope not.
I know. Well,
You like your.
loaded for bear, right? Exactly. And it's
Library?
both
Like your
ends,
street?
both ends of the political spectrum. It hits everyone. It literally makes it government control from the state level and it screws over.
This
the
is
local.
payday for corporations. This is all this is. This is, and it's over and above the head of the legislature and the governor as well. And the state Supreme Court. So, yeah, this is basically undermining representative democracy on every level. So it's a slap in the face. So I think they need to get that message. Yeah, they need to get the message.
All right,
All right.
good.
I'm glad we all agree on that. That's easy.
Yeah. This should be a quick
Oh, great.
calendar here.
Back to work. Oh, yeah.
So,
Okay,
next one, standing items, city treasurer, we already talked about that. We could remove that from this list, I would think.
yeah, this, I think just needs to be brought forward to council.
We're moving it forward. Okay.
Change the surveillance cameras because they're not surveillance cameras like we discussed.
And I did send Chief, he might, I don't know if he was here or not still, but I sent him a link to a company that I just did I'm completely unrelated. I was looking at a company that has a cloud-based solution possibly for our clients to offer to resell. And they have a municipal component. So I just sent the chief the link and hopefully he'll add it to his report when he gets back to us. And it was pretty clear. I don't think that they do, because I asked the question and didn't understand it. So probably no. I asked them if they were approved for federal transportation agencies and they didn't get the question. So the answer is probably no, but they do contract with University of state universities, public schools, things like that. So hopefully, maybe not, we'll hear about it from the chief. And they were, and it seems they have the service that we were interested in, which is the intersection, license plate reading, and then you can buy, depending on your cloud plan, you decide how long you want to keep records, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, maybe we'll hear more from him on that when he gets back.
Yep. Next one is the bonding capacity. I just now texted you guys the name of a bonding advisor that I always use through the school district stuff. So if you don't have one yet, there's a very good company.
Oh, great. Was that the same one, that did the school bond?
Yes,
Yeah, I hope they have.
they do just about everybody's
Okay,
bond in the area.
And they probably work with the league and yeah.
I'm sure they're,
Yeah.
yeah. So they're a good starting point.
Great.
All right, next is the Barren Water Upgrades Dashboard.
Yeah, that just for your reference is the in the packet is a copy of the dashboard. It's just showing what
Looks like it's up and running and
it's
really cool.
yeah, it's up and running. I tried to set up, see if I could access it. I didn't quite get what they call it, smart board, get it all set up. But Bayran is providing copies of this monthly dashboard, and we'll just if it's okay with the subcommittee, we'll just include the dashboard in the agenda packet with, it just gives you an overview of the on-bill charges, the amount of gallons of water that were saved, which is just about 17,000 is what they're calculating. We've got 11 new toilets installed, 11 showers, 7 shower heads, and how many are in the assessment versus active phase. So this project continues to be available. We market it to the community.
No, I've seen signs keep popping up around town. So that's kind of cool. They give you a little yard sign if you've been audited and you did your upgrades. So.
Okay, very nice. 10th officer.
So 10th officer, we did a meet and confer process with the POA about adding a new position as a police officer trainee. We'll be bringing this to council. I think we're currently targeting bring this to council, March 22nd. If not, it'll be first meeting in April. Just authorizing approval of a new trainee position with a draft employment agreement. And the intent being that basically we hire the trainee and we qualify them to go through the necessary training so that they didn't begin their career with us as a city. And that's what most of the candidates are doing nowadays.
Yeah.
Is going through the academy.
Yeah.
And they're going right to work. So in this case, basically you pay them and they're employees while they go through the academy.
They're not burdened with student loans or,
Right,
yeah,
right.
so it's a
The
win-win.
hardest part of the academy is exactly that.
Yeah.
It's not about being able to work.
Yeah.
It's not the loan for that. It's
Oh, no,
the
it's-
inability
it's-
to work. It's just
yeah.
8 hours a day.
Then poverty, yeah.
Yeah.
Poverty and then debt.
Yeah, so we're the chief and Ferguson and our HR analyst, Shannon Peterson, have been working on this. Kudos to them. They did the outreach with POA, and I think ultimately they were fine with it. But we'll be bringing, next step is really to bring that forward so we can take that off.
I just want to say thank you for finding an innovative solution to this. And yeah, I think we have to just cast around and go, what is it? What are other places doing? And it's like, you can't copy everything that everybody does, but if that's the trend, then that's a great way to get on board. And maybe we'll really be able to find and keep some local kids
Yeah.
doing this.
If you look back when we had the last recession, that's what they
Yeah.
had to switch to. It was exactly that. And it's been that way ever since.
Yeah, I want to give credit to Chief. He
Yeah.
really has spearheaded this.
And we're so lucky to have a great program at the JC. I just
Yeah.
remember I did a year at the JC and a lot of my friends went through that and it's a great program. So we're just so lucky that we got a local program that we can.
Right here
plug
at
into.
what's right in Windsor, basically.
Yeah, yeah. Somewhere between Santa Rosa and Windsor, yeah.
EPA turnkey energy.
Yeah, so we, really there's 4 main components to the project. It's the smart meter project, the new photovoltaics at the solar system at the wastewater treatment plant, lighting, the new lighting in city facilities, and then HVAC. Right now.
Just in time.
We just last week, I know Kevin went out with the team. They're confirming all the makes and models of the various HVAC units so that we can get them ordered. Likewise, coordinating lighting. Some of the lighting is both building, but also looking at what remaining streetlights have to be converted over. So those are all works in process. Probably the biggest thing with the photovoltaics is there's some pending legislation that can affect our payback. So we're looking at some options.
Did we get our NEM application in before, because the deadline's April 15th? And
That
we'll be
we're
under,
we're working on that right now.
yeah,
It should be
Okay,
that
you are.
deadline.
That will happen.
that will, we shall happen.
Otherwise, the numbers are all.
Exactly, so as long as you get the application in and there aren't any major errors in it that they have to come back with, so it's like, get it in.
For residential too.
It's for everybody. It's for everybody. It is April 15th, so that has to be a high priority. That has to, so if it can
We
get,
talked about it Thursday.
Okay.
They're on it.
great,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah,
That has to get done.
we're there's a couple of different options there, and we're looking at the which NEM's metering makes the most sense for us. And then on the AMI project, it's really getting all the logistics, because we're gonna have a lot of meters, getting the site set aside at the courtyard,
Yes, for.
and getting getting those ordered. And so we realize that this is gonna be all hands on deck. We're looking at doing some upgrades to our website to get ready for the portal that will be available for customers to kind of go in and log in, trying to get all the we met with the team to start developing FAQs
Great.
and kind of that customer information about what is these smart meters going to provide, what information, and all that kind of helpful, so we can we're coming up with a strategy, probably start with like door hangers to get people to go to the website to kind of get this information. Because there's a lot of technical information that comes with smart meters.
Call or something else besides smart meters.
Uh,
Bring people.
turbo meters, I mean, that's what they're called.
Yeah,
but,
no, I know, that's worse.
Turbo.
Yeah, there's a lot of features that we're learning about, like, we won't necessarily have to manually turn them off.
Right.
Yeah,
We can-
That's really cool.
Our utility billing team will have some extraordinary power at their hands to be able to turn on. And turn ons, that's
Yeah.
what's so great.
That's gonna save us a lot of time.
but that's all that
For sure.
labor work of the, meter readers running around.
Right.
Yeah,
Well, and the ones that you can't do on weekends and things like that, that can all be adjusted, so people aren't waiting multiple days once they do pay their bill, things like that.
Yeah, exactly, automatic. Kind of Saturday, they pay the bill, they can turn it back on without us having to do something.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what that'd be cool.
There's a lot for us to figure out.
That would be really a nice feature.
we just set a time and just say, if 12:01, midnight 01 on the day that their billing starts, it turns on. So, cool.
Yeah, we'll know more as we go through that
Dragging.
with the trading. All right, so in the packet is the current report starting July 21 going forward. There is on page 2, just that you can kind of see it.
You can graph.
Little chart there. One suggestion, as Susie could do a share screen here, might be helpful, Susie. We can do, I think the chart's great. You can really see the trend over time. And is maybe we do year over year and month over month.
Yeah,
Because then you can
yeah,
kinda-
side by side, yeah, just to
kinda
kind of see
see.
where it goes up and down.
Right, 'cause I was kind of just comparing December 22 to December 21 as an example. You can see we're only collecting about 25% of what we were before. And in January, it's a little more than 50%. So quite the amount of fee revenue from Measure P, excise tax, has gone down quite a bit. Since the change, the demarcation line, the red line there is when the change, when council approved the revision in the rate, the Measure P tax rate. And then the black line is the end of the fiscal year. So it's just what those two notes reflect.
So in my opinion, this tells me that we don't tax enough now. We're too far.
Well, we were out ahead of the game and we were too high and we have to compete with the other municipalities. But I think that the problem is that this was really so enthusiastically sold as a revenue source. And it was really always all about the market and about the jobs. And I think that over time, we're gonna see we're not collecting enough in fees to actually do the administration.
And we
I think
also,
we're kind of
Yeah.
experiencing
I never saw this as a revenue source.
no, but what this says was
Yeah.
when it was first introduced, because I was in school at the time, it was as the education and enforcement for drugs, is how it was sold to everyone in
Oh,
town.
sure.
And you can't do that with this.
I did buy that though, so.
Yeah, but that's what it was said. It was supposed to, that extra officer.
Yeah.
All that stuff.
Or because I was like, we're not ready, we should be getting medicinal right first. I think I was right about that. And I really, it was like, there were lots of things that I wish I weren't right about, and this is one of them. And then when I saw this, I was like, oh, this is gonna be volatile. And we shouldn't be counting on it. We should be looking at it as extra. But it's really about the industry and the jobs. And there is gonna be a component, there already is a component of cannabis tourism that we wanted to be in on. And that's really where the advantage is gonna be for the community. I'm not surprised by this at all. I think that we also wasted an incredible amount of staff time on this issue. And we're never gonna see that money again. And here we are. So again, it's like, to me, it's about the businesses and the jobs that it provides here in town. And we're not, this is the shakeout on this issue is not anywhere near over.
Yeah, I think that, like I said, I think the percentages we took them too low, I needed to be brought back into the middle somewhere, because
Yeah, but without fledgling and with a fledgling and do we kill the industry in our town? That's.
well, it's not cost effective for the city at this point.
Yeah.
It's costing us more than,
And there needs to be a cure at the state level too. So,
absolutely.
yeah, because this should not have ever been our problem.
Well, they pay a lot of taxes to. the
They
state.
pay a ton of tax in the state and they get very little value out of it, whereas I think they pay very little tax and fee to us and they get a lot of value. You get because you're handling it locally, and that's what's wrong, is that if anybody should be getting the money the state collects, we should be getting a piece of that to administer these programs, but.
Did anyone
keep
hear
working on that.
the county was reconsidering their?
Yeah.
Recently, I wondered what the outcome of that was.
It's not going,
They went really low.
yeah.
Well, that's what everybody mirrored, was the county drop into the 1%, so we call that.
But I thought they dropped that. They.
Well,
That was a temporary and then they were gonna.
Yeah, I think they did it for a year, they said.
Yeah.
But I don't know what the outcome.
That was subsequent to other cities passing their own
Yeah.
after ours, and ours was high in comparison then. And so now subsequently, the county has come and really lowered their fees. And so, yeah, other cities are considering possibly, but we don't have to. There's nothing that says that we have to. So, but I was like, this is a really big vote of contention that, I mean, honestly, and especially our representative, our senator and our assembly members should be all over this, because it's the small cities that are bearing the burden. Again,
Do we want to look at doing some kind of, because there is a question about the county, and then Healdsburg adopted their, or is in the process, which would be.
yeah, they're in process.
And they approved, the voters approved the excise tax, but I don't know if the council has said it yet.
I don't think so. No, I think they did, but they're kind of did what we did. They're like, well, hey, if we were to do this, would that be okay? I think that's where they're, I think that's where they're at, but Jeff would know. I'm sure that's something that city managers can discuss.
Did they do an ordinance that allows all the different types, or just I thought they were just
Dispensaries and delivery maybe, or I don't know.
I thought it was a comprehensive.
anyway.
I think they followed our form is what I think they did. That was the last I heard, but
Would you like us to review and come back with what the counties and Healdsburgs are?
yeah, I'll go track this.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we'll
We want to bring it to council from here instead of back to us,
What do you think?
Well, how about if we do the preliminary survey work, bring it back? and-
Yeah,
I just don't want to put this up till 6 months later, we're running this when our numbers are so low that it's costing
I
us
also
our city money to have this.
not do it so soon that we don't have the information. Also,
That's true.
the Healdsburg might coalesce in the county industry, might coalesce a little bit if we just give it an extra, bring it back here.
Okay.
And then we actually have data that we can present to the rest of the council. I know that the cannabis businesses, I know that they're not gonna be happy because, and because they're getting squeezed by the state. And we're just not able to probably cover our administrative costs.
It is what it is.
Yeah. This is.
Business.
Yeah, well, I mean, the other thing that we had changed in the annual fee was the number of audits that are being performed, and since then we did a full round of audits and we got those results, and a part of that helped inform both the city and the cannabis control, or the cannabis businesses, what things they needed to make sure they were doing that they weren't, or kind of make sure they were in compliance. But then the question is, how frequent should we be doing those, or is it beneficial? It's kind of it's really a policy issue, I think, for council. Is every other year, is that work for council? Is that, or do we want to do some other frequency that helps address, if there's any outstanding issues? It seems like we have good actors and some maybe
Right.
not so good actors. it can help with those cases.
Is it, maybe Susie would want to weigh into, it's like, what if you had, do we want to consider, I don't want to go to two-tier necessarily, do we want to consider that if you've been audited and it's good for 5 years? You know,
I feel like you could do that, but I also feel like if they come back with audit findings, then we should audit them again the next year. Because
Okay.
this was meant to like say,
And
this is how you do it. And
you got it exactly, is that I'm, because I guess what I was saying is like, they're audited, that they have a clean, I should have said they have a clean audit. They're not audited again for 5 years, you know, problematic, you're gonna get audited the next year. And it kind of does create then an incentive for them to have their act together. Does that make sense, Susie?
yes, that does.
Okay.
And I like that.
We've heard from them that the state audits them every year too, so I don't know if that information is available, probably not, but.
Yeah, but if the state is auditing them, how come we had $70,000 in audit findings from one
I don't know
business?
if they're auditing for our
They're-
local tax, but
right.
they're, yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
any of them have a clean audit though?
Yes, one. Well, we audited, we did 3 financials and one came back clean.
Yeah. I mean, we just that, if you want to, if you can maybe come up with some ideas like that, that kind of helps alleviate the burden and see if the rest of the council will go for it. I would, you know, I mean, it's kind of my idea, but I'm kind of like, well, I kind of want to have a chance to reconsider it, and hear what you say. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm just kind of throwing out ways to where we are showing we are working with them. It's just that we need to get our, we need to get our costs back for what, you know, for what this costs to regulate this industry. It's basically another unfunded mandate, you know, so. But yeah, if you can kind of maybe come back with the next meeting with any ideas like that, if they have a clean audit, if they're off the hook for whatever you deem would be a reasonable amount of time.
Mhm.
And it gives it that incentivizes them to get it right the first time.
Or if you don't, you have it every year until you do have a clean audit. Maybe that's,
Till you get it right, yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Updated ecologies of extraordinary rate request implementation.
Yeah, so we, council had approved for Ecology's extraordinary rate request, and that is now in effect. As part of that effort, there was really a comprehensive review of the franchise agreement. We have some out-of-date provisions, and you know, for instance, one of the provisions was that there was going to be an annual community-wide cleanup, and rather than doing it that process, they went to it. It's more of you arrange for a date, and so it's more convenient for homeowners.
Yeah.
So those are things that we want to those are things we want to review and clean up, and what they wanted to kind of implement these with the last, and I held them off and said, no, we haven't vetted and reviewed all of these. So I want to bring that back to subcommittee. And I just got pinged last week about, hey, is it time to bring these back? And I said, yeah, let's bring it forth. I don't have anything for you yet. I'll probably engage R3 at Ecology's expense to help with reviewing their requests, making recommendations against each of their requests, and bring that back. I did bring the issue up about fines. And so those are all things we can address as part of a proposed amendment.
Okay, yeah, I'm so glad you're chasing all of that down, because I feel like as a board member, we are all, I'm making the request. It gets a little bit diluted, but you're like asking specific questions and asking for specific answers. But the question that I have, besides the fines, but it hasn't happened on my street yet, but I know it's just a matter of time. The question I have is if there's any data that zero waste staff or R3 staff has on the effectiveness of being able to request the large item pickup, or if the community-wide events are more effective, because I'm just like, over, let's see, where is it? It's on 4th Street. There's been a mattress and a microwave there for a couple of days. It takes a long, so I guess.
Did they ask for a night?
I have no idea.
Oh.
I have no idea. I'm like, it's been sitting there and I haven't, it's been there since the weekend because we walk the dog down there every day. So I just was wondering if they had any data on the effectiveness, and then how much, because I think that they're also, it's like if you're gonna do pickup, if you have to do scheduled pickup, they're not pushing that information out to the community effectively enough in order to make people make appointments. So it's like there's gotta be some data somewhere on the effectiveness of one or the other, and that would influence my decision as to whether or not I want to go for that
Okay,
on us.
understood. And I do get asked for input on their quarterly newsletter, and I know this was one of those items. I said, please put a news item in there about how residents schedule their bulk item pickup.
Great.
They
So
offer like, this one gift certificate to the dog or something, and just as an option to say, we'll pay for those who have trucks. And
Right. Right, but I just don't think that it's, if there's information that the scheduling of pickup is more effective, I don't think you're pushing it out enough for it to be effective. I think that the dates, those things at the citrus, the events work better.
there's,
I just think the events were
yeah,
better.
right, there's still a lot of events.
Yeah.
That's what-
Yeah,
That.
Yeah.
Because the events usually are done through, through the solid waste,
household hazardous waste or,
Right.
or,
zero waste Sonoma.
zero waste, yeah.
Versus
They're doing, they're doing.
for recology's not doing any events other than those that are they're obligated to do under the franchise agreement.
Right.
But
But
I think what I hear is lacking is the outreach to the customers on
They don't know.
how to do that, how to arrange that they're entitled to.
Yeah, I didn't know. that.
Well, we may not be.
You may not be.
We are, and the reason I have it so long is my neighbor had a couch out there for like 3 weeks. He's like, they're coming to get it. Okay, well,
Okay, because he had an appointment and it just took forever. Yeah,
and I don't know if that's true. Over
they just couldn't find
It
it.
is recology there too.
So I just want to know that before we go much further on that.
Okay. But I'll be packaging that up with a summary of their requested changes. With an analysis by R3 to bring that forward for discussion. So if there's anything that in particular you want me to bring forward also is kind of so that it's not all their requests, it's our request. There may be some discussion about we give up certain things or in return for certain things, because pretty much the franchise agreement, it all does come down to in large part costs. So we want to make sure if we're giving up something, we get something in return. All right, well, next item is just a monthly water rate revenue tracking worksheet, and the reason we're putting this in there is just to make sure that we're for a couple of reasons. One, being transparent with the revenue that we're collecting. I know in the past there was a community concern that we weren't being transparent, so I want to make sure this is publicly available. This has got a tracking worksheet for the current fiscal year and the 3 fiscal years prior, so you can get a good sense of where revenues are and where they're going. One thing that I think the message kind of that I've tried to share is, we did see despite adopting the increased water rates, we saw a downturn in 21-22 related to the drought, because it's such a good job conserving. We didn't put in place the surcharge quick enough to reflect the conservation by the community, and that's okay. I mean, the community really just took to the message and saved a lot of water, and that meant our sales, our revenue went down. So
It's tough when the infrastructure is dependent on stuff that you want people to not use as much of. It makes no sense.
Work for less.
it is like it.
It is. Well, it's because it's seen as a commodity and not as the most of the value is the actual refinement and delivery of the product. That's why.
That's a lot of energy.
Yeah.
the other part is that we council did opt for a pay-as-you-go strategy. So it is critical that we build up a fund balance. Council just approved the hydraulic evaluation for our South Crest or Cherry Creek paint. So that effort is part of the CIP. It's a necessary study evaluation to do to make sure that we're sizing and we're considering operational constraints as part of replacement. So anyways, this is just for information, and hopefully the community, if they have any questions, it's available. And we can put this in the weekly newsletter. We can make it more available. But it is available on our website under the agendas.
I'd say just highlight it put it in the newsletter, just so people can see it. Yeah, share the information. And then, I mean, I like that also you can go back and, yeah, exactly. Everybody clamors for it, and then when it's out there, but it's just nice to put it in the newsletter so that it's codified and you can republish it if you need to.
You can see a lot of things in this. You can see the seasonality of water.
Oh, yeah.
Starting, kind of goes up in July, it goes down.
People were out there splashing around their sprinklers in late September of 23. Yeah. Heat wave. Yeah.
And speaking of the newsletter with this, Western Communidad said if you send them that newsletter, they'll pump it out to all their people as well,
okay.
which is hundreds of people. They said they can reach out to with that.
Oh, great. Okay.
So
just the weekly newsletter.
the weekly newsletter, because it'll help grow our base with that.
Right, right. And we've been getting the Cloverdale Connect articles. I know this is council one time discussed the bilingual component for Cloverdale Connect. And, what we've been struggling with is kind of the page space and making sure we've got adequate page space for the content. But we recognize that it's important to make sure we get this information out. So we've been having the articles translated and giving the translated articles to La Familia Sana, and Jade has agreed to push it out on her social media page.
Almost done the same thing for her email and social media as well.
Okay.
So
We'll follow up. So we are doing our best to be equitable in terms of our information and but also not just equitable, strategic, I think, in trying to target the communication where it's most going to be read and effective. So
I was reading the Cloverdale Connect yesterday, and I
The new one?
the new one. I was opening up the city page, and I had the exact thought. I was like, oh wow, this is a lot of information to condense. And I was like, well, if this were English and Spanish, it just would be difficult, not impossible, but it is difficult.
it would take up a lot of. We would need more pages.
Yeah.
And we struggle with that. I know I've been told brevity is important. So
Brevity is the soul of wit.
so the other thing we're doing is we're trying to put more information. I want to credit our city clerk, because he's really taken on the website as a project and getting more, building the content. And what we want to do is not push literally, but for more information, go to our website, get folks there, because there's a lot of good information. And that way we can be more concise and get people, if you want to read more, here you go, I can have it all there, the content. But that's a work in progress, and it's ongoing. But
I think it's off to a great start. You should be commended. So
Cloverdale Connect, the other component is Dana has implemented some tools on her website that translate the material in Spanish. So that it's a little quirky on the website, but it works. So it's just another way of making sure that the content is available in Spanish. And she puts a note on there for anyone who wants to see it.
Anything for future agenda items?
Let's see. It's the item, there was a discussion by council to look at evaluating the differences of senior staff salaries. The kind kind of a comparison. This was a report out of closed session council. This is on a future agenda item, so I think that's something I need to work on, whether that'll be a next meeting or a future.
I have a question. Have we been asked at all about interest in electric vehicles charging infrastructure? And I bring this up because I know that the Route 60 bus is going to be electric. I believe it has the range so that it's charging back at Sonoma County Transit headquarters, but I just was wondering if we had been approached by, any county transportation bodies as far as like, charging infrastructure for buses or larger vehicles.
We had a early conversation with Brian Albee, the manager of Sonoma County Transit. But it was about the possible locations, and one was either at Ferber or one was possibly in ground charging station here at the plaza. But since then, we haven't had any further conversations.
Okay.
I think they were still trying to evaluate what their need is.
And then, if you could kind of track I know that that's Hall received funding for a backup generator, which is just fantastic, but I'm wondering, is it a county facility or is it subject to review? Is it subject to review? And I'm concerned because I wonder if the neighbors are going to be concerned about the noise from a generator potentially. And are they going to be subject to any of our
Zoning requirements.
zoning requirements or?
So, well, in terms of governance, it's governed by the veterans, but administered by the county. So the
Right.
county oversees the kind of the financial.
But are they subject to our zoning?
In terms of zoning, in the past, they've consulted us on things like signage and things like that. And so we've had conversations about zoning, and so I don't think they're exempt.
And then if
Typically with respect to backup generation, that's gonna be something that's it's gonna be a building code.
yeah, and I'm assuming that they're gonna be interested in selling a natural gas generator. It's gonna be built into the infrastructure of the building.
I don't know the details, but I can
Yeah.
find out.
And I want to find out because if they can do a photovoltaic and battery and I think that if it's going to function as they want it to function, it's going to need a natural gas generator for now. So the technology just isn't there. But I'd be interested in because and the reason I want to bring that up is that if the county is paying their power bills, they would be interested in making sure that building is as efficient as possible, and that building is not that efficient.
Right.
So
So can I do a couple things, just check, because I'm presuming if they're doing generation, they're doing either natural gas or diesel.
yeah, and I would think that the neighbors would not be really hip to be square about a diesel generator, and in town, I don't think it's appropriate. I don't want to see that unless it's absolutely necessary because they have access to natural gas in the neighborhood. So it's going to be cleaner, it's going to be less,
Right, I
That's
think
gonna
for
be
their
preferred.
use, it seems like it
yeah.
might be.
It seems like a no-brainer, but at the same time, if PG&E shuts off natural gas like they did in 17.
Well, the only reason they did in 19 is
19.
because they didn't want, when Windsor burned down, they didn't want the reporters on video with gas lumps behind them. It was purely a PR, and the League of Cities tracked that down, and that was the case. That's why they shut our gas off. It was not for safety reasons, it was for PR reasons. So they are probably better not do that again. We probably are gonna do that again. But also if they had natural gas or even propane tank, in a neighborhood, that would be fine. But I just can't imagine, I wouldn't want to live next door to, because we're looking at it not just for maybe power outages, but for heat wave. We're looking for a lot of instances. So there could be a lot of instances where they're firing up that generator
I think,
and I don't think you want to live next door to it.
I'll get a update from
Yeah.
the county public works, county
So and so,
director of infrastructure.
somebody who we know, yeah. It might have been hurt from where it lives. Yeah, and I just think that it's appropriate for the city to step in and just say, hey, look, while you're doing that, by the way, it would be great if they could keep their power bills down, if they had a backup battery so that they actually could be generating electricity during the day and then using it to power the building during, peak hours of 4 to 8. So what we're saying it is now for events and things like that, and actually lower their electricity bills. And then also be able to use that for emergency purposes. I just think that that's the best strategy for us to push for. I think they'll be receptive if we ask for that.
And they might have been.
They might be
about
lit.
PV and back of that, I don't know.
Let's make sure.
Because I heard
Because
from,
they have to pay their own electric, they have to pay their gas and electric bills on that building. And so if they're gonna be looking at using it, that might expand the use of it too. Then that means that their bills are gonna go up. So let's make sure that their energy bills are as low as they can possibly be if they're gonna go ahead and do this and set the expectations on that facility for higher use.
I will.
We're doing that
I'll
for
get a
the
report.
library and for senior center and all of those places. It's like, we're gonna help them with that with our energy audit, or helping them lower their the cost to maintain the buildings. Right. So,
Then one other item that council directed to bring forward is to have a presentation by the Alexander Valley Association. This was the group that asked about, they came to council, did a brief introduction. They are interested in possibly forming some kind of district to
so water district.
for private landowners, and they want to have a conversation with us whether we support them or not. So if it's okay with this subcommittee, I'll just work with them, identify a future date and have.
Well, they need to be lobbying the LAFCO board members, because that's where that decision, I think.
Right.
I don't know, it would enable them to actually apply for grant funding to do well monitoring, which I think is important, but they kind of just, at this point, they need to go to LAFCO. I don't know, they're still looking for a letter of support from us. Is that the deal?
Yeah, I think they're still in the organizational phases. I mean, what I'm hearing is there's not a rush to do this. It's just,
Yeah.
if it develops, I'll bring it back.
I think I think that's all they're asking for. So I mean, I don't want a full on, I don't want like 15-20 minute presentation on that. I think this can be, as long as there's consensus amongst the council that, you know what,
Email, Dave.
it's a.
Email us, and if you oppose it, you reply.
Okay.
And then we can just sign a letter.
And sign the letter, and because I think that
Almost like this is just for everything we talked about.
they just need to go to LAFCO, and if council supports the motion, I don't need to spend a lot of time on it.
Okay, yeah, I just wasn't sure, we talked about referring it to subcommittee, maybe updates, so wanted to check in with the subcommittee on that.
I mean, that's, your staff will need, I mean, don't you think it's just gonna go to, it's gotta go to LAFCO?
All right, anything else? Awesome. Meeting is adjourned to 29, next meeting is April 3rd.